guys, it's Neil again from Harley Texas Armory, and today I wanted to bring you guys the full video review on what might be my favorite timepiece in my collection. So join me today and find out my complete thoughts on this really cool vintage dive watch from Seiko, the Seiko Grey Ghost. So like I mentioned, this timepiece here is probably my favorite watch currently in my collection, and one of the reasons why is because of the specs. Really amazing set of specs here in my opinion, and we'll start off here with dimensions. The case diameter here is 39.5 millimeters, which is an excellent size in my opinion. It's going to work perfectly for pretty much anyone's wrist size. You can see the watch wears beautifully on my wrist, which is a 6 7/8 inch wrist, and normally I do prefer to wear watches with case diameters that fall between 40 and 42 millimeters. This one here, slightly smaller than that, wears just fine, and I don't mind it because it wears a little larger than the specs would indicate. To me, it definitely wears more like a 40 millimeter, and the reason is because of these two sections here that kind of jut out from the side of the case. Lug width here is 19 millimeters. I would have preferred 20 millimeters, but 19 works just fine because the bracelet here is of excellent quality and there's really no point in swapping it out. Lug to lug is excellent as well, 46 millimeters. Case thickness here is quite thin. We're looking at 12.5 millimeters, so you're going to have no problems wearing this watch in a dress environment. It's going to fit under your shirts, no problem at all. So the Seiko Grey Ghost is constructed completely out of high-grade titanium here, so you know it's going to be lightweight. Set up for my wrist size, you're looking at 90 grams on the bracelet here, so very comfortable to wear on your wrist. To me, I actually prefer this weight over, say, if this watch would have been constructed out of stainless steel, it would have been probably closer to 140 grams. So here, under 100 grams, feels beautiful on the wrist, but it's not so light that it feels like a toy. It still has weight to it, but it's just more comfortable to wear in my opinion. And a couple other highlights I would like to point out spec-wise here. So we do have 200 meters of water resistance. This is a full dive watch, so you could go scuba diving with this watch. One quick thing I will mention though is that this is a late 90s model watch, so if you are going to take this scuba diving, you'd want to confirm that your seals and gaskets are still in good shape. We do have a slightly domed Hardlex crystal here, which is very beautiful to look at, as you can see. Big fan of that slight dome. I prefer this type of dome over the more pronounced domes. This one here is easier to read your watch. It gives you a little bit of character and distortion, but it doesn't take away from the dial like some of the more pronounced domes do. So like most Seiko watches that have a cult following, this watch here also has a really cool nickname and I'm a big fan of it. So this one here is the Seiko Grey Ghost, and they get that nickname from two things here. So one, from the beautiful titanium that this watch is constructed out of. You can see that beautiful kind of gray matte finish. That's one thing. The second is this absolutely beautiful granite gray dial. So the dial here is simply spectacular, very beautiful to look at. I really like that kind of granite texture that this dial has, and I think, in my opinion, this is probably one of the most, if not the most beautiful dials I have ever seen. Certainly the most beautiful dial I've ever seen on a Seiko watch. So we do have applied indices throughout the dial here, which is a nice touch. And we do have a day date window here at 3 o'clock, which is beautiful. This is a JDM watch, so you do have the ability to switch over to kanji for the day if you would like. Currently, I've got mine set for English, but it is cool that you can switch that to kanji. So the handset is also a highlight here. You can see it is a sword style hand, which I'm a big fan of. The minute hand is unique looking with that cutout. The second hand reaches all the way out to the chapter ring, which is a nice touch. And it's worth pointing out that the tracking is just about spot on. You can see the second hand lines up perfectly with all of the chapter ring markings. The titanium 120 click unidirectional bezel here is well executed. I'm a big fan of how it looks and how it works. So the grip here is excellent, easy to grab pretty much anywhere on the bezel. The turn action is very satisfying. It has a good feel, good sound. Sometimes some titanium bezels can feel and sound very tinny. This one here feels quite a bit more solid, and I think it's one of the best bezels I've ever felt on a Seiko watch. The Grey Ghost does use a high quality Seiko Kinetic quartz movement here. You can see the seconds hand ticking right along. So the way that works is there's a micro rotor inside this watch which spins around, of course similar to an automatic watch, which basically charges up either a capacitor or a lithium ion battery. So originally this watch did have a capacitor installed into it, but one thing about those old Seiko capacitors is that they don't last that long. Usually they will die within say 3 to 4 years. And when fully charged, they only have a charge that lasts up to probably between 5 and 7 days. But luckily there is a quick fix to boost your power reserve on these watches, so you can replace the old capacitor with a new lithium ion battery. It's a basic swap over, and once you do that, you can get a power reserve on this movement here up to 4 to 6 months, so quite an upgrade. My watch here of course has the new lithium ion battery and it works beautifully. So being a Seiko Kinetic watch, it does have a secondary button here that allows you to view the power reserve on your watch. Very simple to operate. All you need to do is when the seconds hand here reaches 12 o'clock, push that button, the seconds hand will swing forward and allow you to see the power reserve on your watch. And one quick note here, if you do swap over your capacitor to the lithium ion batteries, the power reserve will go only to 20 seconds. Now normally it would go all the way to 30 when fully charged, but for whatever reason when you swap out that capacitor with the lithium ion, it maxes out at 20 seconds, but you still have full charge of 4 to 6 months. The crown at 3 o'clock is well done. You can see it has nice knurling here for excellent traction, and it is kind of a tall crown, so you do have quite a bit of area here to unscrew the crown, so very easy to operate. The case body here, of course being made out of titanium, has that beautiful gray color, and you can see mine here with that matte finish, looks beautiful. In fact, the whole watch is basically a satin or matte finish, which I think looks very nice. The screw down case back here is constructed out of titanium and it does look very nice indeed. And you can see it does have the always popular Seiko Tsunami engraved beautifully in the center of the case back. The Seiko Grey Ghost also comes with this excellent and comfortable titanium bracelet. I'm a big fan of how it feels on wrist here and also how it looks. So it's a dressier looking bracelet, kind of reminds me of the Omega Seamaster bracelet, but of course this one being fully machined out of titanium wears really nice and comfortable on the wrist. The titanium clasp here works beautifully as you would expect. Very similar to most other dive watches out there, this one uses a safety clasp here that you pop open and of course release the clasp with these two buttons. The bracelet also has a diver's extension here which allows you to use the bracelet over a wetsuit. To operate the diver's extension is pretty simple. All you need to do is use something like your fingernail to pull right here. The extension will pop open and allow you to slip your watch over a wetsuit. The lume on this watch is excellent as you would expect being a Seiko dive watch, but what is surprising to me is that the lume is still so strong. This watch here was produced in 1999, so 20-year-old Seiko Lume Bright here still works beautifully. Lasts throughout the night, takes a great initial charge, really nothing to complain, and it's just shocking to me that Seiko Lume Bright is this effective after 2 decades. So wrapping this video review up of the Seiko Grey Ghost, we'll quickly talk about some of the highlights of the positives and negatives of this timepiece. So starting off with the positives here, we do have the amazing set of specs we talked about earlier, so just about a perfect size here, fits pretty much anyone's wrist size. Love the bezel action, love the slightly domed Harlex crystal, the amazing lume, and I just am a big fan of titanium watches when they're done correctly, and this Seiko Grey Ghost is certainly done correctly. So the titanium does give it a unique look. You can instantly tell a titanium watch from a stainless steel watch visually, and of course you can feel that on wrist as well. And a lot of people say that titanium does scratch easier than stainless steel, and that is true for the most part, but one thing you have to keep in mind is there are multiple grades of titanium. So when you get a higher grade of titanium, it actually holds up to scratches similar to a stainless steel watch would. So my watch here I've worn for the last 4 weeks pretty much non-stop, and I don't see really any new battle scars besides a few here on the clasp. The titanium holds up just as well as stainless steel, so always keep that in mind. Yes, titanium can scratch, but the ones that scratch more are going to be lower grades of titanium. We also have the very high quality and comfortable bracelet, and finally here, just the overall aesthetics of this watch, which is the real star of the show here. The dial in particular is simply beautiful. That is what I initially fell in love with this timepiece. I've been wanting to pick one of these up for quite some time, so this is a grail watch for me, but just the overall aesthetics of this timepiece are just perfect. So this watch works perfectly in any situation, from dress to casual to sports. Whatever you throw at this watch, it's gonna tackle it and look good doing it. And for the negatives here, I honestly don't have anything major to report on this timepiece. It is very close to being the perfect tool watch for me. The only things I'll mention, which are very minor, are one, I would have preferred the crystal to be sapphire. Hardlex here is pretty tough stuff, but I would have preferred the sapphire for the scratch resistance. And the second thing here, which is very subjective, is the case diameter. So 39.5, I would have probably preferred it to be a little larger, say 40.5, but very minor thing here, and I'm actually starting to get accustomed to this smaller case size, so very minor negative. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to report on this watch that's negative. It is an excellent timepiece. So if I could summarize this watch in one word, it would just be awesome. This is one of those rare cases when I search out a grail piece, and when I actually achieve that grail, it actually exceeds my expectations. So the more I wear this timepiece, the more I fall in love with it. I am completely blown away by this watch. It is so comfortable on wrist, so beautiful to look at, and it has all these specs of a great tool watch, great dive watch. It has quickly jumped to the top of my collection here, probably my favorite piece in my collection, and I don't see any watch replacing it anytime soon. So guys, I cannot recommend this watch highly enough. If this watch appeals to you in any way, I really suggest you go track one down, try to find one, pick one up, add it to your collection. Mine here I picked up from the Watch You Seek forum. These watches don't come up very often. I looked for probably 2 years before I found the one I wanted to purchase. But guys, it is definitely worth tracking down. If you have any questions or comments on this timepiece, definitely leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all take care.